Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advanced. This game was played in US Chess Championship that's happening right now, and most probably the third round has even been started, and the second round, now this game is from the second round, and with the black pieces now we have Wesley So. Finally Wesley playing in the US Chess Championship. He was playing spectacularly in St. Louis Rapid and Blitz, but he was just inches away from qualifying to the finals, but he could not, and now he's here playing against Ray Robson. So let's see what he does with the black pieces here. D4 was played by Ray. Now just comes knight to f6, we have c4, e6, knight to f3, and d5. Now this is the queen's gambit decline, we all know. Knight to c3, decaps on c4. This is the 3 knights variation or the Vienna variation. We have e4, b5 now, and now just going for e5, attacking that knight, and knight to d5, and now finally recapturing the pawn. Knight captures on b5, yeah, knight to b6, bishop to e3, knight to c6, and now just going for a3, not allowing that knight to jump in ever, or the bishop to jump in for that matter. But here just queen to d7 was played. We have knight to c3, bishop to b7, and just queen to c2 in this position. And the thing is that there are a lot of moves in this position, the best one being knight to e7 here. And the thing is that knight to e7 is a nice move because, you know, you want to remaneuver the knight to better squares, maybe f5, maybe d5, depending on the position. And d5 is not a good square because now, I mean, if you put the knight on d5, then I'll most probably trade. I'll just lock in this bishop forever, and most probably you'll get a bad position. But here after knight to d2, you're doing the same, and also attempting to capture that pawn. We have knight to f5, a queenside castle. Looks scary but works, because here after knight to d5 you play this knight caps on c4, and your position is absolutely fine. There is no reason to worry about. The game goes on with maybe knight caps on c3, and after queen caps on c3, just position is absolutely fine. But after this queen to c2, none of this happened. Here bishop to e7 was played by Wesley. Now just comes rook to d1, knight to a5, and just knight to bishop to e2, and immediately in this position Wesley goes for f5. The thing is that if you castle, your position could really worsen up here, because here h4 would come, and if you try to stop it with h5, if you want to prevent it, then comes knight to g5, and all of this may not look like much, but how do you prevent this? And it's a really annoying problem. And the thing is that if you want to play a move here in this position, maybe you play bishop caps on g5, and that's one of the only ones. And after this bishop captures, maybe knight to b3, your position is absolutely fine. But the thing is that it's still white is on the charge, and you don't want to give Ray Robson a bit too much here. So the thing is that if you go for g6, your position entirely collapses. I'm sure you can all see the move. The move is bishop caps on h5, and basically you can resign here. Either you get it checkmated or severe material loss. But none of this happened here. After this, Wesley just immediately went for f5, and you know, all of these blunders Wesley he's never making all of these blunders in a million years. But here after e caps on f6, we have g captures, a queenside castle, and now where do you put the king? Do you castle queenside prematurely, because you know that side is still open? You cannot castle queenside, so what do you do in this position? Hey, rook to g8 was played, not worrying about casting here. Wesley is definitely trying to be on the charge. He wants to attack and he wants to win this game. It just comes knight to e4, but just queen to a4, asking for a queen trade. Now why would you ask for a queen trade in the middle of an attack when you want to win the game? Well, the thing is that situation was asking for it, and the move that you want to play here is queen to b1. And if you try for a queenside castle in this position, it looks good, but it's not that much, because hey, knight to c3 comes attacking the queen, queen to c6, queen caps on h7, and hey, bishop to d6. Now you can see that the queen and the bishop is already eyeing this. You have open files to attack the rook, and your position is absolutely amazing. Hey, d5 would definitely come, because you want to just close off this diagonal. And after this, knight captures, e captures, maybe knight to d4, and your position would be fine. But finding all of these moves could take a lot of time. Definitely Ray Robson is going to have to go very much down on the clock. He's already very much down. He's on 32 minutes going about this move, but he decides to capture it. And after capturing it, the thing is that you lose the initiative. And hey, knight caps on a4 was played, and now just comes knight to c5, and you can see that all of these knights at the rim of the board, just not that useful, but it's fine. And the move that you want to play in this position with black is actually bishop captures on c5. That's the way to go about this position, because here after d captures, it looks like you're never castling, but bishop to d5 solves all your problems. Because now if you try to go for a move like rook to d4 in this position, preventing from capturing that pawn, and if you try to be greedy here, just knight to b3, and attacking the rook to c2, you play rook to b8, and your position is absolutely fine as black. I mean, you're really the one in charge. You're already putting up pressure. Bishop cannot move because you just lose the piece because this is pinned, and your pawn is under attack. These knights were on the rim of the board, but now they're becoming a thorn in your position. This pawn is even hanging. I mean, this is not a position that you would want to face, and you cannot even capture this because otherwise you just lose the piece. So there is not much to do. But here, rook to d1, maybe the game goes on, maybe you have something, but maybe it's just a little bit double-edged and should not be taken as Wesley would be completely winning. But still, I mean, if you give Wesley a bit too much, he always takes the charge. Once he's in charge, I mean, it's very difficult to stop Wesley. But after knight to c5, here knight caps on c5 was played. This took a little bit of initiative back back to black and back to white here. And here after d caps on c5, we have rook to b8, but now just comes g3. And g3, is it a good move? Is it a bad move? We're gonna have to see, because engine evaluation is saying it's fine, but really sometimes engine evaluation are really, I mean, crazy. A bishop to d5 was played. Now just comes knight to d4 and just rook captures on b2, finally grabbing that pawn. Bishop to h5 check. And what do you do in this position? The thing is that you cannot go king to f8. If you go king to f8, then just comes knight caps on e6. Your entire position just collapses and you can just resign here right about now. And now what do you do if you cannot go king to f8? I mean, how do you defend this? Say king to d7 if you try to go. Then the thing is that the same idea is applicable. Knight captures on e6, and after king captures, you play rook f to e1, and there's so many discoveries in this position. Either, I mean, you're just going severe material loss here, and you cannot even go surprisingly here king to d8 either, because this knight caps on e6, and after king to d7, bishop to f7, rook to g4, rook caps on d5. I mean, you can just resign here. So the only move in this position is a rook to g6, and that's absolutely a badass move. When have you seen, I mean, trying to defend a check towards your king with the rook? And in this position it works. And not only that, Wesley, it works, but not only that, but it's better for Wesley, and that's absolutely crazy. But what happens if you capture it? Well, if you capture it, the thing is that here h captures, and there is not much in this position, because even if you go for a move like rook f to e1 in this position, then just comes king to f7, and I'm doing perfectly fine in this position. I mean, you're gonna have to do a lot more than that to be able to take Wesley down. So here just rook to b1 was played, just asking for a rook trade. We have rook captures, and maybe you think you can utilize the open file to harass the king, but now just comes knight to b5, and you don't have the open file anymore. Neither do you have the pawn, because hey, the bishop is guarding it. So here knight caps on b3 was played, by the way. C caps on d3, bishop to b1, but now just comes king to d7, and this endgame is going to be a really tricky endgame, because here Ray Robson is very much low on the clock, and Wesley is definitely going to take advantage of it. Bishop caps on b3 was played, bishop captures, rook captures, and just king to c6, getting the king into the game. Rook to b4, and now just a5, attacking the rook. Rook to a4, king to b5, rook to h4, and now just going for rook to g7, just defending that pawn. Finally, we have a4 check, king to c6, bishop to d2, and bishop caps on c5, finally grabbing that pawn. Now Wesley's up a pawn, and here Ray is gonna have to be really careful. He goes for rook to f4, and it's a fine move. Rook to f7, now bishop caps on a5, king to d5, now just rook to g4, and finally comes bishop to d4, and now this pawn is going to be pushed. You're going to have to be really careful. A rook to g8 was played, but now just comes c5, bishop to b6, now e5, and now rook to d8 check, king to e4, and now finally going for rook to c8, king to f3. But the thing is that rook to c8 was not at all a good move, and you can see that how active the king is, and just look at your king, and it's just not going to help you at all. Still, bishop caps on c5 was played, but now just comes this rook to b7, and now either you're getting checkmated or really severe material loss. H3 was tried to make some breathing room for the king. Rook to b1 check, king moves, and finally going for this rook to c1. Now that piece is pinned, there is nothing you can do. You're just losing material for absolutely nothing, and that's why rook to c8 did not work here. Bishop caps on d4 was played, rook captures, and bishop to b6, maybe trying to set up some sort of a fortress, but how do you do it? It's just not possible. A rook to c1 was played, g4, now just comes rook to a1, bishop to d8, and now just going for rook to a2. And it was on this move, on just move 47, that Ray Robson resigned the game, and Wesley got this spectacular victory in just 47 moves, climbing up the leaderboard now in US Chess Championship. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll be coming back with some of these amazing games, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you very much for watching.